What's up, everybody? It's me again, and it's time to lean in, bitch. Hold on one second. What's up? Sorry for the delay. There has been a technical difficulty with YouTube and my account. I don't know what's going on, but we are here. If you're watching, sorry for the delay. It's been about 30 minutes, but we're here. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. First off, who we have on the screen, we have a full screen, as you see. We have Chad, who just played that music. How you doing, Chad? And welcome back to the lean.
Hey y'all, it's good to be here. I'm happy to be here again. 20 minutes later, I'm happy to be here again.
33.
33 minutes later, I'm happy to be here again with you guys.
And then we have Jamie, as I mentioned. Jamie has done this show with me from beginning to end on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and I'm just glad he's been able to because he's made it get through so much better. And welcome back,
I
Jamie.
have. Thank you for having me back. I am happy to be on this esteemed panel, save for one person you've invited, but we'll make do.
Okay, and then we have Antonio, who was here last week, just a week ago. We talked about part one, part two. Welcome back, Antonio.
What's up, guys? Hey, everybody. Happy to be back. What's up, Chad? Hey, Jamie.
Hey,
Antonio, child, they've been all talking about you on my feeds, child. So I don't know. I've been like, who the one with the beard? Who the one with the beard? So just be on the lookout for your DMs or wherever they may. Oh, he said he's available. and so is Jamie too. Don't think Jamie's in a relationship because he ain't.
And I don't want to be in one.
He said it after Valentine's Day. But anyway, before we get into it, I just want to make sure that everyone is subscribing and liking and commenting on all things the lean. It's very important because the algorithm. There's an algorithm in every application or software that we use, and in YouTube, child, we need the subscribers. So if you're watching, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and just share. Do all things to support. Okay, so we're here to talk about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. As I mentioned, this is a really good show. Like the third part, I was a little worried because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. This could be a little weird because the first part and second part was so good, but the third part did not disappoint. I was very excited to see the husbands and in the amount of time they used them, and then there was more drama that was hashed out. So we'll start with Tonio. What were your thoughts on this part 3 reunion?
Like you, Cortez, I also kind of thought, where could they go with part 3? But they were able to round out all 3 parts with this third one, and it was like they brought it back around full circle. So it was really good to kind of see the ladies in a different light, as well as also hear the voices and get the opinions of their husbands and significant others. So I thought part 3 was just as, if not more impactful than part 2 and part 1. So it was really good.
Okay. Chad?
same. I thought it was definitely like I said, a good roundup to close the season out. And you have to hear from the husbands because they were all just as involved throughout the season as everything else. So you have to hear, from their perspective, how their wives were being perceived to America as well, and as well as them as well, because their storylines were pretty much around each other. Jen with her husband with their issues, then Meredith and Seth. Lisa didn't really have issues with her husband, but of course they had issues that arose throughout the season. So I thought it was good to pretty much round it up and show everybody the full of them, not just them alone, but as a whole, as being housewives. Like, we really got to see how they could really sum it all up, and it was good. I loved it.
Okay. And just to give a notice, people have joined. We have people in the audience, child. Thank y'all again for waiting and being around. We appreciate it. It was a little crazy, but we're here. And of course, you'll be able to watch, whatever you missed, only 5 minutes, but you'll be able to watch it later too if you want to really go back and lean in some more. So we'll go ahead and get into it. As we talked about, each individual just gave their own opinion about this part 3. I thought it was good. I was very surprised that it was just as good as the first part and the second part. So about the husbands, that was the first half, the first segment. In this segment, the husbands are there. And then the first thing I noticed, obviously, is that 2 of the husbands are not there. I think John, was her name or whatever? And I'm
Seth.
sorry. Yeah, what's her husband's name? Lisa,
Seth.
Meredith's
Meredith's
husband.
husband name is Seth.
Seth, yeah.
Okay, so Seth was not there, and then Robert Senior were not there. So when I first saw that, I was just like, now how did they allow them two to do that? You know, versus like Potomac, where some of the husbands weren't there. Now I know they tried to say it was because of COVID and stuff like that, but do y'all really think that it was because of COVID they just couldn't be there or didn't want to be there?
I think Robert Senior just didn't want to be there, and I do think that because Seth looked like he was in his office working at that time, so it seems like he really couldn't be there. But Robert Senior was like he wasn't here for the shits. He just kind of came, so Mary wouldn't divorce his ass. So yeah.
And I different from Potomac because Potomac is now on what, season 5. I think the husbands have a little bit of power to say, like Juan, this past reunion said, I'm not interested in showing up in any capacity whatsoever. You're not getting me on video. You're not getting me live there. I'm uninterested in it. Same with Michael Darby. So I think, this is their first season. You can kind of tell that the men, they were brought on there kind of for, just, hey, we have to have your husbands on and talk a little bit. He didn't spend a whole lot of time with them. I'm surprised with the conversation that was gearing towards Mary's husband, Robert Sr. I felt like he was going to start talking a lot more before Mary jumped in and was like, we already resolved that. Don't do that. It's okay. We don't have to talk about that. So I was like, what's going on there? So that I kind of wanted him to, because he looked like he had something he needed to say.
Well, let's talk about Jen and her conversation. So a gem that I felt like they revealed was that, obviously she was upset or throughout the season that he wasn't there for the funeral, I believe, or something like that. He wasn't there alive for that whole process. But he was like, the basic that he was there. He said that her dad was the only person that he was responsive to. And because of that, because she's saying he wasn't there, it had something to do with him going on home a little sooner. Now, that's a lot to put on somebody, I feel like, in my opinion. Like, to tell your husband that, he responds to you, so you should be here more. Like, that's a lot, in my opinion. Like, what were your thoughts on that and their whole back and forth? Because they never really, like, Jen, the whole season was like he wasn't there. But Coach Shaw said I was there every step of the way as much as I could be. So I did that whole, like, nothing was ever resolved from that. But what were your thoughts, starting with you, Jamie?
Well, I mean, it's kind of indicative of how Jen has seen other people's experiences versus her own perception the entire season. Yeah. Like, you've got two people who've experienced the same thing, and she's saying, this is how it is, and this is my reality. And the other person is like, well, no, actually, this is what happened. So, I mean, if I was her husband, I would be frustrated because she spent the entire season painting him to be this completely absent, aloof person. She had that whole scene, if you remember, where she's breaking down in tears, yelling at him, I need you here, and I drink because you're not here. And he's just kind of like, all right, girl, well, whatever. I was kind of annoyed. Like, sis, what else are you lying on this man about?
Right.
Yeah. Jen has always come off to me as like a manipulator, even the way she does the other women in the group. So it was no surprise to me that she does that within her marriage. I felt the same way. I felt like she was hurt behind something that wasn't really what it was. I think that maybe he might not have went to, she's the type that maybe he went to the funeral but didn't go to the wake. So she's feeling like, you know what, I can expand on this with it really not being as serious as she's trying to make it out to be. Because clearly he's there. Like, I feel like he's there, just not how she wants him to be. And she turns the situations into something completely different. Like, that's just kind of what I get from her. Even with, like I said, with the ladies in the group, she does the exact same thing. You could be Team Jen all the way, and as soon as you miss out on one opportunity to be Team Jen, she drags it into something completely different. So I feel like it was no different with her husband. It's the same exact situation.
Yeah, I was thinking with her and her husband, it was more so about like maybe misplaced hurt from her dad passing. So it was like she was looking for someone to blame. So I'll blame you, because even though you came to the wake and you've been there for other stuff, had you been there when he was, you're the only person that he responds to, then he would have stayed alive longer. So, but because you missed a few days and then you end up missing the funeral, like she ran it in the ground the entire season. And we was thinking that they had a FaceTime or in the phone relationship last week, but come to find out they do have a real relationship. It's just not what she wants, or he's not there the amount of time that she feels he should be there.
Right.
Of all the husbands that I thought weren't going to show up, I thought it would have been Coach Shaw.
Yeah,
but he showed up, and he was the one that was most vocal protecting his wife. So I'm kind of looking at her like, oh, girl, this man seems to go to bat for you. And to be 100% honest, he shouldn't be going to bat for you because you really did some foul stuff over the season. But he's dead ass defending you and trying to make peace with these people that you have, talked really, really poorly about.
Right. Coach Shaw kind of reminds me a little bit of Greg Leaks in the way he kind of protects his wife, even if she does something that's not really, like you were wrong. He still like has her back, and also just like his wisdom and some of the points that he made. It reminded me a lot of Greg Leaks. So I like Coach Shaw. Yeah.
Okay. And
I like Greg a lot more than Nene.
Oh, wait a minute. Back to Jamie's point about Robert Sr. going at it with, it seemed like he did want to say more. And she was just like, no, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassing. Like kind of stop, And I get what she was saying because they did kind of hash it out. But that kind of makes me feel like maybe they should have brought the husbands out sooner. Because what if they had brought them out sooner? Do you think they would have made up? Do you think he would have really went in? Like, I feel like things could have went a lot more left if that hadn't happened. But she kind of was just like, we already hashed about it. Like, let's not go there. And I noticed the cameras kept flashing to Coach Shaw because I feel like Robert Sr. wanted to go in. He wanted to go in on Jen, but he didn't. So, like, what were your thoughts, Chad, about that whole situation, Robert Sr., and then how basically he was kind of hushed. He was silenced in so many ways to not being able to speak.
I think that it was, for one, good that he didn't speak because I do like the point that I do like the common ground that Mary and Jen seem to have gotten to. And I feel like had he spoken, I think that it probably would have made it more sour. I think that it could have just went even more left, So I think that it was good that he didn't really expand on his feelings. It was from what we saw, it was pretty obvious that he didn't like what happened. He didn't like what went on throughout the season. So I think that was enough. I think that had he really done, like, say, for instance, what Chris did on Potomac, it would have really just drained it even more. And, I'm just happy that they were able to reach some type of common ground. So I'm happy that he didn't say anything else that could have damaged that. Because I do want to see Mary and Jen not necessarily be besties, but, get along. I feel like we went the entire season with these two at odds. And I remember Lisa said maybe in episode 2 or 3, their issues are not that deep for them to still be at it. So when I saw it drag on the entire season, I was like, okay, this is annoying at this point. Like, y'all could really be cool and move on. But yeah, I'm just happy that it didn't go anywhere else outside of where it was at. So that's how I felt about it.
And then who hadn't spoke? It was Jamie. Well, you spoke about it earlier, so you gave your opinion.
Yeah.
So okay. And then, another thing they talked about, they kind of briefly talked about, yes, y'all can ask questions for those who are asking. They kind of briefly just kind of rose over Whitney and her husband. And in that moment, Heather kind of got emotional. They started talking about divorce in the Mormon community. And I was confused, too, when she said, what's the name, Lisa? She was like, something about you can just clear the roof or something like that. Did y'all hear that? Y'all remember that part?
Yes,
I think it's a part of the ceremony.
Yeah. How did y'all feel about this, like, I guess, the whole Heather kind of breaking up her divorce? Like, she got emotional. Because it was about Whitney and her husband. And they were talking about, I guess, the fact that they had got divorced at one point. but they're married. Of course, they got divorced from their other parts, but they're married now. So like, how did y'all feel about that? And just how Heather kind of got emotional, and then because Lisa later on talks about divorce too. And I feel like Heather is using that a little bit to kind of go back at Lisa. Yeah. So we'll start first with just Heather's part of getting emotional about divorce in the Mormon community. Antonio.
Heather was something this episode. I don't really have the word to really describe it, but she was something. I understand that, she's still kind of hurt from her divorce and being cast out of the Mormon church. But I think it's been a few years now. I understand that it still hurts, but it's like she still uses that to her advantage whenever she feels like she can. And I want her to get to a point where she moves on past, her ex-husband and not being at that church anymore, because they were like, saying that was like one of the main things, like you can't do the church. And Lisa was like, but you can still go to church and stuff like that. So I was kind of confused by all of that as well. But yeah, I just want Heather to get it together. So I want her to pull it together, pull out her lip gloss like she was doing when the episode first started, put her little lip gloss on, look at her little CVS compact, fix her makeup, and just keep it moving. Because I like her, but she kind of got on my nerves a little bit.
Well, yeah, because what irritated me was when, she got mad at Lisa when they were talking about, what's her name? Almost getting divorced.
Meredith and her husband.
She got mad at her. She was just like, why are you so emotional for her and not for me? And I'm like, first of all, I don't like. If I was Lisa, I don't like you like that. I don't know you, so
she don't even fuck.
Meredith's her friend, right?
I don't care, but I mean, that moment, I'm like, Heather, you still are butthurt. You said you didn't want to talk about it earlier. You was you're right. You was putting your lip chap and stuff on, but now you kind of come at this girl. You want to get emotional. Like at this point, Heather, like she's starting to go back to looking crazy. In my opinion, I don't know. In my opinion, go ahead.
She's looking a little thirsty.
Well, for every conversation that I applaud Heather for finding her voice and sticking up for herself, there are two other conversations she has that I'm like, oh, maybe now is not the right time to assert yourself.
Yeah.
Like that conversation with Whitney and her husband, I would have really liked Whitney's husband to have the opportunity to expand on his experience. Because he always seems like a really chill, laid back kind of guy who's just kind of, have fun, roll with the punches. But he got visibly emotional talking about how he was excommunicated and he got a letter sent. And I can understand Heather being emotional, but rather than make the conversation of, it sucks when you devote your life to a religion and then one thing happens out of your control and you're forced out. But she took that opportunity to be like, my divorce, and then it was started all over again. And you're like, okay, I think Heather really has this. I mean, and Antonio, you said it last week. Cortez, you've been saying it the past couple of weeks. Heather really has this insecurity deep within her that she really seeks out validation. And that issue with Meredith and her husband, and the reason Lisa had such a connection is because Lisa knows Meredith and her husband. Lisa loves both of them as individuals and loves them as a couple. Those are her friends going through marriage troubles. Of course she's going to be upset. Whitney, I met you 6 months ago, and you've been divorced for 5 years at this point. Like, what am I going to cry with you about? Like, what are we doing?
I don't understand. Her divorce. It's just weird to me. Like, you would think by now she would have, I don't want to say gotten over it, but kind of like taking some steps forward. But it's like she's still holding on to it. It's still hurting her.
She's still there.
It's still bothering her.
But
go ahead.
In her defense, though, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, during the season, she mentioned that he still takes care of everything, like their living arrangements. Like, he still takes care of, like, from my understanding, he takes care of them. Like, so I think that they're still, just like with any relationship, when you continue to keep ties that close, I don't know if she's thinking that something is going to work later on down the line. I don't know if she's still like holding out hope. But that's what it seems to me. It seems like that connection.
She don't love him.
Yeah, and that's the thing too.
It was an arranged marriage.
Oh, she
I don't
definitely
think that she loves him, but I think that she's gotten comfortable.
To be married.
Oh yeah, It's comfortability, and that's what.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have an identity outside of that marriage.
But
Yeah.
it's
Like,
interesting to
she-
me that she is so hurt and emotional of divorce of something that she's not really in love with. She's just really in love with being married, nothing with the
The
man.
idea.
It's not even just married, just marriage for Mormon or whatever. She has no ties to the man other than him paying. It's weird to me. I don't know. I guess I
But
gotta
that's
be Mormon.
also, I mean, that's indoctrination. I mean, you grow up your entire
Yes.
life thinking that your worth as a woman is only valued at what you can provide for your husband. Even if you
Right.
don't love that man, once the whole thing you were brought up and groomed to be is now gone. I mean, that's scary. Every time you get out of a relationship, you're like, shit, I got to put myself back out there. But she got 3 grown ass kids.
Right.
She's, I think,
She got her own business.
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
think watching herself back and coming back next season, I think she'll be better next season. Like,
Well, she ain't got
I really am here for the Whitney Growth, or the Heather Growth storyline. Like, I love it.
I think Heather gonna be even more outspoken next season. She's found her voice.
Yes.
She's gonna be Portia.
I hope she ain't
So-
too outspoken. Oh, she ain't gonna be Portia.
No, she gonna be 50 Cent.
Right. She gonna be 50 Cent. 50. Right. You everybody
She
know
gonna be
6
50
Cent.
Cent season 7.
They gonna be calling her Hehe. Hehe. Not Heather.
Not ha
Yes, indeed.
So
She
while
gonna
we're
be
talking
something
about
next year.
marriages and divorce and all stuff like that, of course, Meredith. I think we were all looking forward to this moment where he kind of drilled into Meredith. And last week we asked, do you think that she's going to drill into Meredith like she did Mary? And I'm going to answer for all of us. He did not. He did not. But
Did not.
But I also feel like she was very on guard and she was very like defensive about it already. She was already on defense to where
Yeah.
it didn't really matter what he asked. Her response is gonna always be short. And he was like, well, your answer gives like there's more to it. So start with Antonio. What do you think about that segment with Meredith? And I guess since from last week to this week, we didn't really get what we wanted from her drilling into him.
Yeah.
From her drilling into her.
Yeah, I didn't really like that because he did not even after because she was not with that shit. She was like when he started, she was like, I'm not finna discuss my marriage with with the people sitting up here. She completely cut it off, and I mean it could have been edited out, but it's like he didn't even try to really go in. Like he has gone in on some of the other marriages on even this franchise with like Mary and Robert Sr. He didn't even try. She was like, I ain't with it. And he was like, you know what? It seems like it's more there. And he moved on to the next person. I was like, well, damn, Andy, you're not even going to try? You're not going to try to like spin the question to like trick her into answering or nothing? You just going to let it go? But you did say it last week, and I'm not surprised at all because that's what Andy Cohen be doing.
I mean, he spent Potomac. Every single season he drills Ashley and Michael about their marriage, and it was very interesting that he asked the question, but Seth didn't say a word through the whole damn thing. Like Meredith did not let Seth speak his piece about it.
Well,
like
he
she kept
spoke a
kind of
little
like
bit.
looking, saying
He
like,
spoke a little bit because he did say
it was almost like I give you permission. Like he knows what he can and cannot say.
Oh well,
I
she
think
probably
that,
coached him. Go ahead.
Oh, for sure.
I think that in a very short period of time, because it was only 13 episodes, maybe.
Yeah.
I think in a very short period of time, we have allowed Meredith to build this brand of disengaged, and I think that Andy recognized that early on that she's the type of woman that I can't bait into anything. She is just like I really think that sometimes the housewives build this aura of a person, but that's not really them. I really think that what Meredith showed is what we're going to get. She's going to give you what she wants to give you, and that's it. So I think that Andy, as a trained host, and have dealt with so many different personalities over the years, I think that he just recognized that, I'm not going to get much out of this woman, so let me not even waste my time on it. Because I don't, even going into the next season, I think that Meredith will be different, but not drastically different. I think that she's still going to give what she wants to give, and that's it. Don't expect anything that she doesn't want to put on TV or put out there, she's not putting it out there. And I think that was just something that he recognized. So he was like, fuck it, I'm not saying anything.
And I mean, the marriage issue wasn't that big of a storyline anyway. Like, they were having marriage problems, they separated, they reconciled. Like, even if she was going to talk about it, I don't really know what juicy tidbits would have been discussed at that point. I mean, I would have liked to at least seen her say, yeah, it's great, we're going to therapy, I love him, and it's so fantastic, and this show saved our marriage, and it's great. But she just gave absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Well, she did say that the show helped their marriage, and I did like that he kind of she said that, and I like the fact
Andy
that
was like, really?
Yeah, I like the fact that Andy also touched on with Seth, like, about Meredith when she was dating other people. That was kind of like the big thing to me, was like the shocker that she's dating these other people, while she's still married but separated. And Seth, kind of revealed that he wasn't really fucking with nobody. Yeah. But he was okay with his wife doing it for a little while. But
he said not really.
But I can get what Chad said though.
She asked him. He said not
really.
He said not really.
He said not really.
Not really. What is that?
That means he's fucking.
That means that he sent like a couple of texts, but they ain't like go out and do nothing. He just sent the little text or something like that. Right. That's what that.
Well,
you are
probably on Bumble or something
I just want to know how many people did Meredith, because they make it seem like Meredith was just out here like, hey, you want to come party with me?
Run the street.
Like, right.
I'm going to be honest with you. To me, Meredith seems like she could really like be a hoe. I'm not even lying, because she's very reserved.
Well, she said she smoked cigarettes too, so them cigarette girls, child, they be
after a couple of drinks. Listen, after a couple of drinks and a cigarette, Meredith gets loose. I believe that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I want to see that. That's what I want to see. Put her on Housewives All Stars and get her good and liquored up. I want to see that.
I do think we'll see more personality from her next season, though. I think she went into it. I think she did go into this season.
Or
Meredith.
Okay.
Meredith. I think that she did go into this season very guarded.
Yeah.
Because I mean, now with seeing so many different franchises, you would be dumb to join a franchise and not go into it, kind of reserved.
Yeah.
So I do think that next season we'll see more personality, but I just still think that she's going to be on guard. Like, I'm still not telling you my business, but very, very much like a mixture between Cynthia and Candy. Like, you'll get some of me, but I'm not going to give you. I'm going to be very right. I'm going to be very smart about how I do it.
Okay. That makes sense. I can see that.
I think it's another storyline this season to where her marriage, like next season, it should just be dead. Just like the Mary and grandfather thing, it should just be dead. So hopefully she needs to engage a little bit.
I don't ever want to talk about it.
Right. Okay, so let's do a quick little game. Everybody got their cards or paper or phones, as some people say they got.
Yes.
So the name of the game is called
It's
called Moments or Memory. Okay? And basically, you know how on reality TV there are moments that happen and people look for moments, but there are also things that are memories, things that we remember. So some moments are not necessarily memorable. So basically, I'm going to call out a set of different scenarios or sayings, and you just basically say with your card or your paper or your phone, whatever, if it is a moment, only a moment, or is it something that we're going to remember for a long time, as in like when we think about this franchise or this show. Okay? Cool? All right. So
let's do it.
Starting with the first one. Jen splashing the camera crew and saying, you shouldn't film me in a fucking jacuzzi or a fucking pool, whatever she said. Okay. Moment. Memory. 2 memories in a moment. Okay. Mary saying that she doesn't like black men, but then retracting and saying that she just prefer lighter men. Moment of memory.
I ain't gonna never forget that.
You can't be cheating, Jamie. You say you're gonna never forget it.
No, the whole thing was so cringeworthy.
Hold on, we're not gonna discuss it. We just gonna. I just heard Antonio say he gonna never forget that. Antonio said he was real mad about that last week. Okay, so
he was upset.
Lisa saying Whitney and Heather bad weather tornado. Moment, memory. Okay. Mary said that Jen smells like hospital. If you still laughing at it, it gotta be it's gonna be in memory forever. Okay. Meredith and her disengaging. Okay. And then
gonna be a one line.
Iconic.
The last one is Whitney spilling the tea to Jen about the girls being scared of her, while also spilling the tea to Meredith that Jen was talking about her marriage. Look, everybody already knew. Oh, moments. y'all don't think folks gonna remember that as a big iconic tea spill?
No.
Jen's
reaction. It was good for that. It was good for that moment, and that's it.
Okay. Jen stole the show after that.
Okay. And I see Kenny
G.
Kenny in the chat is playing the game as well. So he said a few moment memory. I'll look and see what back. But if you're at home, hope you played the game too. So we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is basically they're talking about Jen's behavior throughout the show, which they've mentioned a lot, child. And just basically Jen being a bad friend to Heather. Now, this took me out because basically she said, right. Heather basically said that Jen said that the only role she going to play is Shrek and that she buys off the rack at the dress barn. Now, let me tell you something. That Shrek comment made me holler. Because I would be lying to you if I didn't call her Fiona at least once this season. So, thoughts on that, starting with you, Chad.
When I tell you, I was in a group chat with a few friends talking about it, and that part literally made me scream. I was like, wait, did this just really happen? Like, I know this didn't just really happen. So, that part, it was one of those moments where it was so relatable to how us at home have been thinking. So, so it was one of those things where I was just like, I really believe that Jen kind of like felt this way about Heather. Like, and that's the thing. That's the thing why I have so much empathy with Heather, because she knows that how people view her. She knows, we was having this conversation on Facebook last week sometime. Heather knows, like, she has this insecurity for good reason. I do want her to get out of it, but it's for good reason. I feel bad for her sometimes because I'm like, geez, how do you get out of that? Especially when you are in a group now in your 40s with women on TV and they're still putting you in a place to where you feel those insecurities and they're broadcasted for everybody to see.
Yeah.
So I felt for her. I'm like, poor baby.
The comment, and you can always count on Bravo editing to be the shadiest thing about a conversation.
Yes.
As she's saying, Jen calls me Fiona and says I shop off the rack. They immediately cut to Jen's face, who has absolutely no emotion. It gave me very much that iconic moment where Tamar's crying, saying, "Certain people say I look like a muff," and it cut.
It definitely gave that.
What's her name?
Money.
Oh my God.
That's the only thing I could think of, and I'm like, can you imagine having we all have best friends and we cut up with each other and we throw shade on each other, but I don't think that was a shade throwing. I really think Jen straight up told her best friend, "You look like Shrek in that."
Well, I don't think she told her that. I think she said it on social media. So I don't think she told her that.
Yeah,
that makes even more sense.
It was a social media thing because then they asked her
to millions of people.
They asked her, and we talked about this last week. Her Twitter fingers are just out of control, and her response to everything is, "I don't remember," and that's not what I meant. And it's just like I was mad.
I did that, but somebody else also said it.
I don't understand. My thing is with her, you knew this reunion was going to be hard. You had all this mouth. It's just like season 10 when Kim was doing all of what she was doing. And when they got to their reunion, them girls wore her out. you know. And then she went
Wore
into the
her
defense
out.
about being racist against her. We're gonna talk about that too. But if you see there's a pattern between these two, well, hold on, we get there. I know that's the last thing we're gonna talk about. Did you have anything to add to that, Antonio?
Also, one last thing.
Go ahead.
One last thing. Jen not only said she could play the part only of Shrek, or a manatee.
Yes, or
I didn't care. I kept trying to hear what she said.
They aren't even
It was
related.
so
They're
harsh.
both horrible.
Basically, what she said is she got a bad shape.
It was something.
She said that shape is bad. Yeah. It's Dressborn bad. It's Shrek bad. And it's what's a manatee? What is that, child? I didn't even look at that. Let me see.
Don't spell it.
Don't even look it up. Don't even look it up.
That's so rude.
Oh.
And the thing is, the girl's not bad built.
What is this?
The girl's not bad built. She's got curves. She just doesn't dress for her body. And it's probably because she's probably a little homely. They probably wore homemade skirts or whatever when she was married. I don't know what they do with her.
She just shaped the way she should be shaped. That's how everybody got a shape, and she shaped the way she should be shaped. I ain't body shaming. I'm just saying that we're gonna leave it at that. They actually
she ain't gonna be shaped like that next season.
Oh,
She not.
Oh no, you know what? I feel like because she got that message from Rihanna gonna put her in that fashion show. Watch. I bet you.
Hello.
Don't be surprised.
Don't
be surprised if you see Heather in the next fashion show for a Savage Fenty for being body plus.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Oh, she really their head really gonna be big then.
Right. Yeah. Real big. Now, did y'all catch when he asked Mary a question and I guess Mary fell asleep? When I tell you I fell out, because she definitely fell asleep because it was given like when you in class and you ask somebody a question when you know they ain't paying attention. Because she clearly was like...
Yes.
She was like...
Yeah.
She was like...
She caught it, though. She picked up.
She did.
She did.
She pulled it together and she answered the question. She did.
Yes,
she did.
Well, and that's how you know she was asleep because her answer was very specific and succinct with no other
She probably just closed her eyes for like 2 seconds. No shade.
She said yes, and she was hurt. That's why she said it.
But then it's like...
Listen. Mary came with, I don't care, I said it last week, Mary came with that wig done and her makeup done and a black girl did it. I don't care what Mary said. I am Team fucking Mary.
Yes.
Mary said Mick's going to be laid next season. Watch what I say.
Yes. I agree.
It's a lot of people that's actually. I'll say my close friend Jay, who was on the link a few days ago for Atlanta, he said that he is kind of over married now, just based off of last week's comments, And so, do y'all feel like she'll be able to redeem herself next season? Because we know that they filming. I think Chad, you sent this morning. They started filming. I think sometime recently or today or something like that, but they're filming, so the whole cast is back. How do y'all think that people, because I feel like the comments from black people, she don't really have a lot of support, even from just the husband grandfather situation into this comment last week. I feel like I support her. I think she's a great person, but looking at the Instagram comments and Twitter, like she don't really have the black people support. It's like the randoms.
I agree.
What do y'all think about that?
I think she, if she comes back next season, I think with Mary, she needs to really, when someone asks her a question or something like that, she needs to think and process her thoughts before she starts speaking. Like she really needs to get her answer in order before she starts to talk. Because if she just tries to shoot off something, it's going to get her in trouble. And I think that's what happened last week or, on the reunion. Part 2 when they showed it last week and they were asking her about the black and light skinned and whatever she was saying. I think that she can get the support back, but I think she's going to have to put in the work. And honestly, it's going to have to be a situation where she is showcasing, somebody black, doing her hair or her going to a black salon or black makeup artist and things like that. So it's going to have to showcase things like that for the people to be like, okay, so maybe Mary is cool. She's just kooky and crazy as hell. I just never know what I'm gonna get. That's why I like her. So
I think Mary is how can I explain it? She's one of those cases if I had to compare, she's one of those cases like a Jason Derulo in music. I don't think that she needs the Black community's support in order to sustain on this show. I think for one, Salt Lake City is such an off-brand. Like, for one, who would have thought Salt Lake City would have been a franchise?
Yeah.
For two, who would have thought that they would have been interesting? And then it's just like, I think that it's going to be like Potomac when it comes to the Black community, because even though Potomac, the ladies are all Black, the Black community didn't really start giving them their praise until this past season. So I think that with it being still so early on, I don't think that it'll be hard for Mary to redeem herself. I think that it's just, like Antonio said, it'll be one of those things to where she'll have to just, showcase some things, because I do think that the show is picking up momentum much faster than Potomac did. So I think it'll be a lot more of us a lot of more people of color that will engage next season. But I think she'll be fine. I don't think she has to do much, because it wasn't like the things that she said were damaging. I think they just turned some people off, because even like what Antonio said, you never know what you're going to get out of her mouth. It wasn't her comments about race and stuff dealing with race were just as kooky as her saying that someone's dead relative smelled like hospital. I feel like it was all so random and out there as to where it's not gonna do anything to damage her. That's just how I feel. So I think she'll be fine.
Before you go, Jamie, I'm gonna switch the question, because I've got to mention this in the comment about what my friend said, and basically he was more also upset about the fact that how she felt about her tea or something. Who was it that cleans her house? Who was it that cleans her house? She pays their rent. Who was that?
Her cousin.
It's her cousin.
That's her grandmother's like sister or something like that, or something like, I don't know. It's something like that.
Grandmother's
daughter.
So he felt a little away of the fact that she had her doing that, and then consider her apartment a little tiny apartment, and they pay the rent. So why would she have her relative clean her house? Like, how did you feel about that, Jamie? Because that's one thing that he said he felt like turned him away from Mary. He was a diehard Mary fan, but I guess it's the whole thing about family and how she, just everything with her is so materialistic in terms of money and marginalized. So it's like with her saying that's a little apartment, little thing, and got them paying, cleaning her house. Like, how did you feel about that?
It was a little cringe. I think you and I talked about it. It's like, okay, well, if that's your cousin, like that, it's a very odd. But she even said herself, I don't really know her like that. And I can see it where if it's your grandmother's sister's daughter's daughter, I can see where that relationship, you may not necessarily know her that much. Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm not going to sit up here and think that I have any insight on the Black community, but I definitely think that a lot of Black and brown people that are in these reality shows, whether or not they like it, they get a following at first based purely on their race, particularly with shows like the Housewives, because other than Potomac and Atlanta, Black and brown people are nowhere to be found in any of these other franchises. Right. So when you see one Black person or one Latino or one dark skinned or an Asian, you're like, oh, cool, we're getting some representation in there. And unfortunately, with that comes a whole lot of responsibility, because these white women have been saying horrific things for years. They all have Spanish-speaking housekeepers that they walk up to and try to fake conversation with in second grade Spanish for cameras. But they keep getting season after season after season, rumors of them being racist and Trump supporters, and they don't bat an eye. But that's the privilege that they're afforded for being Caucasian. And so I really do hope that Mary can see kind of that her having a presence on the show comes with a lot larger responsibility, whether or not she likes it. And who knows, maybe in 2 or 3 seasons, she just doesn't get it and she still says shit that turns people off. At that point, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. I mean, we can't keep giving excuses. Yeah. If you keep saying things insensitive or colorist, you're going to turn off a huge set of your viewers, and you don't have anybody to blame. And it sucks because white counterparts can get away with it, but they can only get away with it for so long. Eventually, stuff's going to come at you if you don't stop.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing I agree with Mary on is, we have a lot of 7-Elevens here. There's 2 on each sides of my apartment. And yes, if I pull up to 7-Eleven with my non-rich ass and I see somebody that looks sketchy or a homeless black person or whatever, I am not going in. Just gonna go on over to the
I'm
Ralphs
on your
or the
side.
Walgreens. So I side with her on that. I don't think it was racist. I think well, she's black for one. She can't be racist.
I think it's realistic.
Yeah,
it's realistic. They took it out of context.
But speaking out of context,
especially now in
go ahead.
In ATL, we see ATL Scoop and all of the stuff that be going on, even around me and the area that I live in. Yeah, I think in some cases, Mary was probably justified in making that statement. I didn't feel a way about that.
I'm definitely gonna grab my little purse and I'm gonna go pull on and drive on out real fast. I will just wait. So in the last segment, me and Jamie have been calling, Jen the blackest woman in the world all season, just because in my eyes, I feel like she feels like she is the blackest person, and she's not in my eyes. She is a woman of color, and in this segment, she basically is talking about the what's it called? The session that they had in Vegas. And basically she felt like she was attacked. She was labeled as aggressive and all those things, right? But I just want to hear everybody's thoughts on that, because mine personally, like, she is a woman of color. She's tonguing or whatever. But I feel like what she's trying to put out there in terms of like saying black women are aggressive, she's not that woman of color in my eyes. Like, it goes back to the whole colorism thing, I feel like how darker skinned women feel that way. And me personally, I feel like she was reaching. Like, she kind of ran out of tricks. It was the end of the reunion. She had got wore out. And this is like the last thing she can pull out was they're being racist. There's a sense of racism. So starting with you, Tonio, give me your thoughts about that segment and what you feel about it.
Yeah. Watching that, I didn't like the whole how she tried to pull out the racist card, or some of the. I guess they brought up some of the things maybe she had said on the on social media. Do I feel like there are moments, like Meredith said, where kind of they show their white privilege in a way? Absolutely. Yeah. But do I feel like there was anything that I seen them do that was racist? No, I cannot agree with her on that. And let's be honest, in regards to her being, labeled aggressive in some of those instances, she was. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, when she walked up on Whitney when they were in Las Vegas, I thought she was gonna kick Whitney ass. I'm not even gonna lie. Right. So, and then she pushed Heather or whatever. So there were moments in which she, that's what she portrayed. That's what she showed them, that she could be aggressive with them. I think with Jen, it was also the point of when the what was the lady, the coach, the psychic, the medium, whatever that woman was, kind of called it out as well. And it's like, oh damn, you kind of getting that from somebody that don't even really know you. But then to kind of look at the way Jen was like sitting on the couch and her arms were folded and she was closed off and she didn't really have a lot to say. But I cannot, and like you said, the blackest woman in America. Bless Jen Hart. She got a black husband. She got some black kids, but that ain't it, Jen.
Yeah, it wasn't. I just didn't like how that was the last part of the reunion, and then there was a moment where Whitney was on the phone. She was like, "Yeah, we just went over the racist thing," and I was like, "Was this playing? Like, did she talk about?"
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
I was confused. Yeah. I was confused. Go ahead.
The whole season, Jen had been tweeting stuff about you can't label women of color aggressive. She had been tweeting stuff like that. So the women, I mean, particularly Whitney, knew that, okay, this is going to get brought up at some point in this fucking reunion. And here it is. Yeah. I mean, the thing, and I think that I can understand where Jen's coming from. Myself being a non-black person of color, there are certain parts of racism and prejudice that I identify with that I can certainly understand. But there's other parts of it where I have to sit back and say, like, that aspect of it, that ain't for me. That's not my reality. That's not my life. That's not something that I have experienced or will experience to the extent. And I think you guys are all very much aware of the phrase co-opting persecution and co-opting oppression. And that really felt like that's what she's been doing this entire season. Every little thing is, you can't say that to a person of color and I'm like, man, your skin tone is medium to light peach. Yes, racially, ethnically, you are not Caucasian. However, ma'am, you are not a dark-skinned person. You do not exist falling under these very real institutional oppressions that dark skin, particularly when you try to co-opt and say people of color are labeled aggressive. No, they're not. Black women and black men are labeled aggressive. Correct. You are not. I don't know of any stereotype of Tongan or Hawaiian or Filipino, Asian, any of them being labeled aggressive. Latinos are labeled spicy, or they have attitudes and they've got that. But aggression is very much reserved in society as a label for black women who speak. So it was very much, sis, you're co-opting a narrative that's not your narrative. Yeah. And you're pushing it, and it's all a ploy to not take responsibility. They're attacking me. They've been attacking me. No, they haven't. It's called accountability. They're calling you on stuff that you said and stuff that you did. You did throw a glass. You did break a glass. You did push somebody. You did attack production. You threw a glass at production. You were screaming. You did all these things. I don't know what other. I don't know what other word for it. It's not. It's spirited. Like
it's the same
Teresa
thing.
Giudice did the aggressive shit.
It's the exact same thing that Kim Zolciak did season 10 on the opposite spectrum in my eyes. They were just so under fire, and honestly, they deserved it in my eyes. Chad.
So I'm actually in the middle with this situation.
Oh, let me close my laptop. Close his laptop.
Look, I'm really in the middle on this situation because on one hand, I absolutely agree with y'all. I think, and before we started this, a friend of mine texted me and he said, I understand Jen's frustration with this racism conversation, but it would have held more weight if it came from an actual black woman. Exactly. And I said, I agree. I said, I absolutely agree. I said she did a lot of it to try to absolve herself from her actions. On the other hand, me and my boyfriend have this conversation all the time with him being Dominican. We have these conversations about race, about ethnicity, all of that. And we had a conversation yesterday because he brought up, I don't know if you all have heard of the Asian stuff that's been going on, like racism with Asians.
Yeah.
So he was like, I haven't heard of this. I haven't seen anything like it. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, oftentimes this is the way society has been. I mean, since I've paid attention to it, we always only consider black and white. I was like, we never really consider Asians. We don't think about Latinos. I was like, it's just one of those things to where we think either you're black, either you're white, that's it. So I was like, we don't really think about how other people might really feel this way. So in Jen's case, she mentioned a few times throughout the season growing up in Salt Lake City. So my thing is, with me not knowing a single soul from Salt Lake City or Utah at all, I'm like, should I be hesitant on how I approach her situation? Because I really don't know. If she's been around nothing but white people all her life, she might genuinely feel on the inside that this is what she always gets. She might really feel like it's always white people attacking her. She might really feel racism coming from not necessarily those women, but just white women in general around her. Because, I mean, when I think about Salt Lake City, I automatically think of just white. And even though that may not even be the real demographic there, I think that it is. But I think that she reached for her moment till she couldn't reach anymore with that segment. I do think that she knew. I think that she's very meticulous. She knew that she could do all that for a moment. And I do think that there was some truth to how she felt. But I also feel like that could really be her reality. She might really feel that some of the actions toward her as a woman of color are racist. I mean, and that's really possible with her growing up in Salt Lake City, because she always mentions, I had to do all this in my life. I had to fight. I had to do this. And I'm like, I'm thinking like James said, you aren't of a darker hue. So immediately I want to dismiss what she's saying, but it could be some truth to how she feels, because true enough, she isn't dark, but she is darker than Meredith and Heather and Whitney, you know. So it's like I kind of get where she was going. Not to drag it out, but I kind of get where she was going. I just think that it was the case of wrong messenger. Had it came from Mary, I think we would have received it a little better. With her, it was more so like we don't know how to take it.
Yeah, I get that too, and I think that you made some great points, Chad, and not to take anything away from what Jen may have experienced growing up in Salt Lake City, but I do still think, you know, as a person of color, you still have to be mindful before you put that scarlet letter of R or racist on, you know, anyone, because of the day and time that we are currently living in now. Some people, whether true or not, will take that and run with it, and it can legit ruin, you know, careers and people's lives. So I think that, not to take away from her experience that she's had as a, you know, Tongan woman or woman of color, I think that she still needs to be mindful before just throwing that word out there to describe anybody at all.
And her wording of certain things kind of dictates that she may not necessarily have a full concept of what it is she's trying to convey. I have no doubt that as a Tongan person of color, as a woman of color, she's experienced some sort of microaggressions. We know how white society can be at large. There's unconscious bias everywhere that we look. I've experienced it, but also, if you're going to be somebody that can sit there and articulate about microaggressions and about oppression, you can't use terms like, I'm a colored woman, colored people, lump yourselves in. She talked to her husband, we can't keep doing this. It's us, it's our fight. And I'm like, ma'am, if there's layers and there's steps, and you have to understand that as an ally, when we're talking about oppression, if I'm sitting here talking with you guys, my experience will only mirror your experience up to a certain point. And then from then on, I've got to take a step back, and it's not my reality anymore. And I think Jen tried so hard to really make that her reality. And so just adversely, like the R word, the racism can destroy. Sorry, I'm almost done. Can destroy careers. Adversely, there are people who weaponize that kind of oppression to get them out of situations. And I don't doubt that she probably feels that to some extent, but at the same time, like, ma'am, the way you're describing it, you really would have thought that you're a black woman who came in just calmly trying to assert yourself into a situation, and these white women attacked you, and that's not what happened.
That's not what happened. I agree.
I don't. I'm on one side of the fence. I feel like she was reaching. It ain't changing over here for many reasons. To add to that, one, you tried to make it seem like this actual black woman was against her own race. You put those allegations out there, and she was strong on it, you know? So it's like, okay, and this was before Mary said she liked light, whatever she said. So this was already a reach. And then you've been going out of your way to be so close and friends with these white privileged women. It's like, now that they're like against you, you're reaching for straws. I'm sorry, I can't get with it. When I heard it, I was just like, I went and took a shower. That's when I did. That's why I was late, to the live. I went to do a quick little shower because I was like, I'm not gonna sit here and she getting up and walking off with her ponytail. I'm like, girl, listen, I'm sorry, Jen Shaw. Meredith, I like how she spoke up and she was just like, so basically, are you trying to say be racist? Like what? Like that's basically, she was trying to diffuse it, and I received it well from Meredith because I feel like Meredith is the only person that I would take it from. Whitney and Heather, Mary actually did say that Whitney and Heather were like white privileged. Did y'all catch that? When she said that?
She did say that.
Yeah. She did.
And Heather was like,
and Heather accepted that. Heather said, absolutely, white privilege absolutely exists. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's not like it's falling on deaf ears. I think, I mean, if they had a conversation about maybe something that one of them said and she was like, hey, this is the reality, let's talk about it. But in the middle of them saying, you were talking about people's marriages, you're talking about this, and now you
did everything.
like, y'all are attacking me because I'm black.
you did everything, and then you were aggressive behind it. You not only did you start the fire, child, you spread the fire, and so now at this point, look, don't be trying to use the race card, and we just gonna leave on that. So the reunion actually ends. Mary and Jen are actually, they seem like they so like okay and good. I think that's gonna be an interesting dynamic because I was excited to see them friends this season, but obviously that didn't happen. But we know that Lisa and Heather are gonna have it back and forth. Let's get everyone's final thoughts on the reunion before we close out, starting with you, Tonio. Or the show, the reunion, all things Salt Lake City, because this is the last time they're gonna talk about it for a while. So.
Yeah, I think the reunion, the show, production, everything, I think it was amazing. I think that the women did an amazing job with really stepping up to the plate. Like, you would think that they've done reality TV or something like this before, the way they kind of owned everything. Like, I was really shocked by that, by how they really answered the question. They didn't shy away from a lot of things. They really kind of, whatever he came at them with, they accepted it, well, with the exception of Meredith, but they kind of accepted it and, kept it moving. So I really appreciate that. In regards to the dynamics next season, I think that's going to be very interesting. I think that Mary and Jen will try. I don't think that's going to last. I think they are two completely different people in two completely different worlds. I just don't see that standing. But it would be nice to see Mary, around some different people and really, kind of break out of her shell just a little bit. And also it'll be interesting to see where Meredith goes as well. As I know she'll be friends with Lisa, but it's like, who else is it possible that she'll be attached to? So it'll be interesting to see kind of, I guess, her and Jen work on their relationship. So I'm really excited about season 2, and I'm guessing it'll probably come around August or November or something like that this year. Probably, so yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Jamie?
I think, everything that we've said the past couple episodes of recaps, this was a strong first season of any franchise, probably the strongest inaugural season of any franchise. I think the chemistry that the cast had was really real from the get-go. I think that we saw, you said it at last recap or the one before. Like, this is the first time that you're watching a show and you really don't know who's your favorite or who you love, because every episode somebody's bringing something different. Yeah. You're seeing more unfold. I'm excited for season 2. I'm very glad that they immediately started filming right after this. We've seen in the past sometimes long stretches in between filming where they don't know if they're getting picked up. Very, very happy they're coming back. I really hope that we see, I don't think friendships that Jen Shaw has made are going to last. This little alliance she has with Mary is not going to last, because Mary's not one for bullshit. Mary, she throws out her own bullshit. She seems to survive really well on that. But other people's, she has a very low tolerance for it. I think that we're probably not going to see Meredith and Jen make up anytime soon, because Jen just has completely failed to take any kind of adequate responsibility. She keeps blaming other people. I really hope that in this next season we see some sort of resolution between Whitney and her dad. I think that's one part we didn't talk about, was Whitney talking about her father completely just disappearing. And I don't know if you guys, have anybody that has fought addiction and relapse and stuff, but that's characteristic of relapse, when people just completely drop off the face of the earth and stop communication. So that sucks. We've seen this journey with them, and you can tell she's genuinely beat up over that. But ultimately, I think I'm rooting for all of them for different reasons, and they were entertaining as hell. It definitely exceeded the expectations that I had, which were really, really low going into this. So I'm entertained. Like, these new shows are really showing these other franchises that have been here 10, 11, 12 years that y'all gotta freshen things up. Y'all gotta switch the formula up, get rid of people, bring new blood in, because these young girls they studied y'all. They know what y'all do, and they're doing it better.
Hello. So to go back on what everyone said, I think that, like we said, this was a dynamic rookie season, kind of unheard of to see. Like, I was literally making sure I normally will catch a show on the DVR and be like, oh, I'll catch it later. I was like waiting to see each week what was going on Salt Lake City. And even from the trailers, I remember when the trailer was released for Salt Lake City, I think it kind of grabbed people's attention to where it was like, what the hell? Like, who's Salt Lake City? But it was just interesting from there. I do think that it's going to be I do think that it's going to be an interesting dynamic next season because I don't know if you guys follow the ladies on Twitter, but Meredith, Whitney, and Heather have kind of formed a little bond. They're always like talking to each other, giving each other praises. So it'll be interesting to see their dynamic while also knowing that Lisa and Meredith have this dynamic who Lisa doesn't have a connection really with Heather and Whitney. So it'll be interesting to see that part. With like Antonio said, I don't think that the Mary and Jen thing will last. I think it'll be very much like a Nene and Kenya type of thing where it's like we see each other, we don't really care for each other, or more so maybe maybe they can turn it into a Candy and Nene type of situation where we don't dislike each other, but we don't really like each other. But yeah, overall, I think that the season was really, really good, really entertaining. I'm really interested to see what goes on next season. I do think that somebody will end up getting a divorce. Yeah. It's just I feel like it's going to need some type of shakeup, like a major shakeup to really get the ladies on board and completely supportive of each other. And I think something that big might bring them together. I foresee Lisa maybe doing another season and that's it. I don't see Lisa lasting really long. Lisa's in her own world. She's gold for TV, but I think she's in her own world, and it's kind of like she don't really need the show in order. I think she could be like her own type of spinoff type of girl. Unless she changes up her formula. Her formula is very all about Lisa, and that's not necessarily great for Housewives. But, I mean, they're all great in their own right. We shall see. But they did what they needed to do. They brought the freshness back to Housewives. It made, like, a dying brand kind of made me re-interested to see where the other franchises will go from here because you don't really get for the longest we've been getting the same thing over and over and over from these girls, and it's like, okay, what's next? So I think that they've kind of revitalized my overall interest in the Housewives franchise.
They breathed a little bit of life back into the franchise. Yeah. I agree with that.
Because I had really grown tired of and not even just with the Housewives, I had kind of grown tired with the reality TV formula of the Love and Hip Hops, the Housewives, all those type of shows, but it made me realize that there's still an engine for this, but you have to find the right people. You have to find, just the right talent to fill those spaces. And the Salt Lake City girls did what needed to be done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think
that.
I think that's everybody's thoughts on the and predictions on the next season. I think it's going to be a good season. I'm going to keep it short, but I think that, it's interesting to see some of the girls, Lisa and Meredith, they're not having an issue, but, Meredith does not care that Lisa is friends with Jen, and I'm sure Lisa don't care that Meredith is hanging with Heather and Whitney. So I feel like they're going to have, I feel like Meredith is going to have to engage next season. Lisa is not going to argue with her. It's not going to be arguing, but they're going to have moments. Heather, she'll have her backbone, Heather and Lisa. Jen, I think she may be the one to get the divorce because I just feel like after this reunion, her and Coach Shaw are now on the same page. And she's constantly expressing that she's lonely and angry. So that only eventually turns. And she's such a strong black woman. So, strong black women, eventually, they get to the point to where they want to leave their husband. So since she's such a strong black woman, that's going to be her storyline next season.
Jennifer is Jen is the star of a new Tyler Perry series in herself. Like,
oh Lord,
you can't tell her different.
Yeah,
bless her heart.
I think. Before we close, I do think that Jen will not necessarily become a fan favorite, but I want to say I forgot who posted it on my post this week. But someone mentioned that they think that Jen watched herself on TV this season, and I think that she learned a really valuable lesson about how she comes off because the Jen we saw on the reunion was not the Jen we saw throughout the season.
You can't
Until
get that Jen.
Until part 3, and even part 3, it wasn't as drastic as we saw throughout the season. I think that she's going to clean it up.
Yeah.
And I think she'll come off much more warmer next season than she did this season.
Well, she's very Teresa from Jersey.
You cannot. There's no way she could be any different. I'm sorry. There's no way she could be the same Jen. There was no way, because they were laying into her.
Almost like a Camille from Beverly Hills when she first came on, like her very first season, like the people hated her.
Yeah.
But then she came back the second season, and it was like,
if you want to be Queen B,
different person.
You cannot be Queen B and be a damn bitch. Like, you gotta be
unlikable. Yeah,
you have to be likable, and it's your first season. We don't know you, so you can't come in so strong. You know. So, with that being said, we are about to lead out. I'm gonna thank Chad, Antonio, and Jamie for doing this with me. This is a good session. For the viewers that were here, thank you for watching. If you had any questions, I didn't see any, so if not, you can leave them in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment on all things the Lynn. As I said, subscribe. And if you're watching right now, just hit that little like button. And if your subscribe button is not red, hit that subscribe button too. Okay? I ain't gonna ask no more. With that being said, we're gonna lead out. You can find these guys on social media underneath their actual blocks here, and we will see you guys later. All right, bye.